My name is Chloe Sterling. I'm 27 years old. For 20 years, my parents treated me like the slow one of the family, while my older sister, Vanessa, collected Yale degrees and promises of a massive inheritance. They openly mocked my dyslexia at family dinners, excluded me from major decisions, and paid me a mere fraction of what they paid her. But on Vanessa's graduation day at the Waldorf Astoria, in front of 400 elite guests, a stranger handed me an envelope that would expose every lie my parents had ever told. What they didn't know was that my grandma Beatrice had been watching. She saw everything, and she left me something that would flip the entire Sterling empire upside down. The Sterlings were old money Chicago, the kind of family whose name was plastered across hospital wings and charity galas. My father, Arthur Sterling, ran Sterling Holdings, a luxury hotel empire that my grandmother, Beatrice, had built from a single motel in 1970. By 2023, the company was valued at over $120 million. I was diagnosed with dyslexia at age 8. Letters would swim and rearrange themselves on the page, turning simple paragraphs into exhausting puzzles. My parents' response wasn't support, it was deep shame. When I was a teenager, they hired Ivy League tutors for Vanessa, paid for her European immersion trips, and spent thousands on her SAT prep. When I asked for a specialized reading tutor, my mother, Evelyn, just sighed. "Chloe, we've already spent so much." At some point, we just have to accept that some children aren't built for academics. I was young, so I believed her. I learned to adapt on my own. Audiobooks became my lifeline, and I developed a system of visual mind maps and diagrams to process complex information. Every Sunday, I would visit Grandma Beatrice at her downtown penthouse. She would sit with me for hours, explaining business concepts through stories. "Chloe," she told me once, her warm hand over mine, "you read slower than most, but you see patterns that others completely miss. That's not a disability, honey. That's a superpower." I didn't fully grasp what she meant until much later. First, I had to survive years of being the Sterling family's embarrassing secret. At our Christmas dinner in 2017, surrounded by 20 relatives, my father stood up and tapped his wine glass. "I'd like to make an announcement," he boomed, using his authoritative boardroom voice. "Vanessa has been accepted to Yale Law School on a full scholarship." The room erupted in applause. My father beamed. "She is going to take this family and this company to extraordinary heights." He then glanced down the table at me. The warmth vanished from his eyes. "And, well, Chloe is also here." A few relatives awkwardly chuckled. Vanessa didn't defend me, she just laughed along. I stared at my plate, fighting back tears. Under the table, I felt thin, papery fingers wrap around mine. Grandma Beatrice squeezed my hand. Her eyes were furious, glaring directly at her own son. 3 months later, she called me over and handed me a small, heavy vintage keepsake box. "Keep this safe," she said strictly. "Don't open it yet. When the time comes, you'll know." After graduating from a regular state college, never an Ivy, I wanted to prove I could contribute to the family business. My father reluctantly hired me as an administrative assistant for $45,000 a year. That same month, Vanessa joined as chief legal counsel with a salary of $310,000 plus bonuses. My job was fetching coffee and making copies, but I watched and I listened. I started sketching diagrams of the company's deals, tracking the flow of money and potential conflicts of interest. Grandma Beatrice had taught me how to read contracts not word by word, but as architectural structures. "Your father reads contracts looking for loopholes," she once told me before her health declined. "You read them like an architect. You see how the whole foundation connects." In 2020, Grandma Beatrice passed away. I was the only one holding her hand in the hospice. The vintage box remained unopened in my closet. Fast forward to April 2023. An email popped into my inbox. "Position restructuring confidential. Your role is being eliminated effective next month." That evening, staying late to pack my desk, I heard my parents talking through the thin wall of my father's office. "We can't have her working here when Vanessa takes over," my father said. "The future CEO's sister working as a secretary. People will ask why she's so limited." My mother replied softly, "We've done all we can for her, Arthur. She just doesn't have what it takes. Give her a severance, she needs to go. My chest tightened. If I let them fire me, I would permanently become the family failure. Not because I failed, but because I was never given a chance. The next night was Vanessa's graduation gala at the Waldorf Astoria. 400 people glittering in designer clothes. My mother forced me to sit at a table hidden in the back, near the kitchen doors. "Try not to embarrass us tonight, Chloe," she whispered sharply before walking away. During his toast, my father proudly announced that Vanessa would inherit his entire estate and take over as CEO of Sterling Holdings upon his retirement. The room gave a standing ovation. As the applause died down, a silver-haired man in a tailored suit walked deliberately toward my table. "Ms. Sterling," he asked, "I'm Marcus Vance, your grandmother's attorney." He pulled out a heavy cream envelope sealed with red wax. "She left this for you, with strict instructions to deliver it only on the day your father publicly disinherited you." I broke the wax seal in a quiet hallway. It was a notarized will dated just months before she died. My eyes widened as I read the middle paragraph. "To my granddaughter, Chloe Sterling, I bequeath 55% of my shares in Sterling Holdings, currently valued at $66 million, along with all voting rights." The will continued. "Chloe is not slow. Chloe was abandoned by her parents. I will not allow her father's prejudice to continue. Condition: Chloe must formally request an emergency board meeting within 72 hours, or this will become void." My grandmother had given me a weapon, but I only had 3 days to use it. I rushed home and finally opened the vintage box she gave me years ago. Inside was the original 1970 partnership agreement and a USB drive. The drive contained an audio recording from a 2017 board meeting where my father had secretly tried to strip Beatrice of her voting rights, claiming she was too old to understand business. The board had rejected it, but Grandma never forgot his betrayal. I called Helen Croft, a fierce 70-year-old board member who had built the company alongside my grandmother. She helped me file the emergency petition. The morning of the board meeting, I stepped off the elevator at Sterling Tower. Vanessa and my father tried to block me from entering. "Go back to your desk, Chloe." "You have no idea what ROI even means," Vanessa sneered. But Helen Croft opened the boardroom doors. "Let her in. She has standing," she declared. Inside, in front of the entire board of directors, my father tried to dismiss me as a jealous, troubled girl who couldn't even read properly. I didn't get angry. I simply pulled out the will and placed it on the mahogany table. Marcus Vance, the attorney, stepped forward and authenticated it. My father turned pale. "This is absurd. My mother was manipulated," he shouted. That's when I pressed play on the USB recording from 2017. My father's own voice echoed through the room, proving he was the one who had tried to manipulate and oust her. The silence in the room was deafening. "I am the majority shareholder," I announced, looking directly into my father's terrified eyes. "And I propose a vote of confidence in Arthur Sterling as CEO." The board voted, 7 against him. He had 30 days to resign. He walked out of the room completely broken, realizing he had lost his empire to the daughter he thought was worthless. I didn't take the CEO job. I didn't want it. Instead, the board made me the director of sustainable hospitality, a role I created to focus on environmental building practices, along with my $66 million controlling interest. Months later, my mother and sister reached out. Vanessa admitted she had been in therapy, realizing that being the golden child was just a different kind of toxic cage. We are slowly trying to build a relationship from scratch. I hung my grandmother's portrait in my new office. She didn't give me the company because I was better than Vanessa. She gave it to me because she knew I had the character to wield it fairly. The things my parents thought made me slow were exactly the things that allowed me to see the truth. To anyone watching who has ever been called worthless or stupid by the people who were supposed to love you, you don't need a secret inheritance to prove your value. You just have to stop waiting for them to see your worth and finally start seeing it yourself.